Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, whatever time it is that you inky savages are joining us for episode number 175 of the PenBoyRoy Pentertainment Podcast. Today, I have such an exciting episode for you today. I said today so many times. I'm really excited, but today we have a very special guest. The guest is Mr. Creees Lee, spelled C-R-E-E-E-S, Lee, common spelling. Now, he is a comic book artist for Marvel Comics, as well as some many other independent comic books out there. If you're a comic book collector, you may or may not know he is the artist for a new series called The Tiger Division. Tiger Division is a new series of comic books, the miniseries, 5 issues, and I'm really excited because we talked to him about his journey through the arts and what he has done, how he's done it, etc. It's a really excellent episode. I hope you guys enjoy it. But first, we have to do our sponsorships. Please check out the Gold Spot affiliate link in the description below and use coupon code LUCY at checkout for an additional savings on all products on the Gold Spot website. Also, Luxury Brands, and I really want to show you this, is distributing these pen cases here. They're made of genuine leather, and they are certainly some of the more beautiful pen cases that I've ever seen. And for what they are, they're very inexpensive. This here is a 3-pen case. This is a zippered leather case. And then over here we have a different type of leather that is also zippered. This one holds a boatload more of pens. Excellent pen cases. I hope you guys check them out online, wherever it is you buy pens. And I think Gold Spot's carrying them. I don't have Tom here for the sponsorship reads. Don't worry, he will be here for the interview with Creees. But these pen cases are the best pen cases you can get for the money, made of actual leather, not fake leather that a lot of companies use and nowadays make and charge a lot of money for. These pen cases are not like that. They're actual leather, they're handmade, they're really well stitched, they got nice zippers. Like for example, this one has a nice big fat zipper. You open it up, it has credit card slots over here, it has a notebook slot over here. On the other side, you got your pen cases and stuff like that, and whatever this is, I'm not sure what that is. Excellent pen case. I hope you guys check it out. I hope you like the episode coming up. But before we get started, I want to give you guys a quick disclaimer. This podcast is not scripted and therefore will contain potty mouth words. Really just from me, not really even then. It was a great interview. I hope you guys really enjoy it.
The PenBoyRoy Entertainment Podcast.
Stay savage.
Today I am super crazy excited. 174. Really excited because today, like I said, we have a special guest. It is Mr. Creees Lee, spelled C-R-E-E-E-S, Lee. Lee, common spelling. He can be found on Instagram at Creees Art, at C-R-E-E-E-S-A-R-T. Check him out. He is a Marvel Comics artist who is responsible for many awesome titles and artwork for many awesome titles in the Marvel lineup, such as the newly released Tiger Division. So, Creees, Tom and I have been talking about this. We are so excited that you are here. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself? How did you get into drawing comic books? First of all, how old are you?
I'm 30.
30.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Spring chicken.
Spring chicken. So young. So, we met because you're here at the Great Cafe, one of our favorite cafes on the planet Earth, where they make one of the greatest matcha lattes. Tom, what do you think of your matcha latte?
It's good so far.
Good
It's
so
my
far.
first matcha latte ever.
Right.
So, yeah, I've not been experienced to this. It tastes green.
Right.
Yes.
Right,
It
whatever
looks
green
green and it
tastes
tastes like green. Yes.
Right. So, my wife and I were here, and I was just ordering my matcha latte. It's a good caffeine content and doesn't give you the crackhead jitters.
Mm-hmm.
So, I saw this young man sitting there drawing, and I'm looking at the drawings, and I'm thinking, holy cow, this guy is not doing this as a hobby. So I obnoxiously went up to him, and I was like, hey, do you draw comics for a living? Turns out he's a comic book artist, and I was really interested in hearing your story, how you at 30 years old became a comic book artist. Did you know that you wanted to be a comic book artist as a kid?
So I originally wanted to be in animation because I grew up watching a lot of like the, TV shows, like cartoons, like the Batman animated series, a lot of Cartoon Network stuff. And then, yeah, I don't know. I drew a lot as a kid. I didn't know I wanted to be in the arts like visual arts until late high school.
Okay. How old were you then? Probably
16, 17 maybe?
16,
Yeah,
17.
I wanted to originally actually pursue music.
Music?
Yeah.
Oh, that's your forte.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Yeah, I have a
Okay.
bachelor's degree in music. But,
Yeah,
but you wanted to pursue music in high school, but before
Yeah.
that you actually had interest in art. Did you have any actual formal training in art up until when you got to this point in your
Not
life in high
really.
school? No. Okay.
it was just drawing for fun.
Everything was
Yeah.
fun.
Like whenever I had free time, it was either like games or drawing, and then, and then I actually wanted to like pursue cello,
Oh.
and then I realized I wasn't that good. Like I know like the level you have to kind of be at to, do it for a living, and I was like nowhere close. And then I was like, drawing is like something I'm like pretty decent at, and really enjoyed doing. And then my friend in high school actually introduced me to comics. And then I was like, oh, it's really cool that like one artist kind of does like the whole book, whereas like in animation, I feel like it's like all kind of spread out and it's harder. In my mind, it was like, if you want to become successful in the arts, you have to like get well known, and kind of connected those two things. And so I was like, well, comics, like you're doing the whole book, your name is on the front, so like that was very appealing to me. And I was like drawing superheroes like the whole time, so I feel like. Yeah, that was really cool for me. And then,
What would be like one of the first like superheroes that you really attached to and felt like a connection with?
probably Batman.
Batman?
Because the animated series was just like something I watched a lot.
And is this the one with the, I think Mark Hamill was the Joker?
Yeah, the Bruce Timm version.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
And then like the Justice League, and then Justice League Unlimited. Those are like things I grew up watching a lot of. And then, and then my high school friend introduced me to like Jim Lee.
Right.
And then he was like, oh, there's a Korean guy that draws comics, and he's like really good. And then
He was like one of the most popular artists
he was
of the
big,
90s.
right.
Yeah.
So for everybody who's listening or watching who doesn't know, can you just explain to everybody who Jim Lee is?
Jim Lee. So from what I know, he got very big drawing the Uncanny X-Men with Chris Claremont, I believe, in the early 90s. It was the first comic book to sell over 1 million copies. And then he was just one of, like the godfathers of comics. And him and then a group of other artists created Image later on. And then, now he's like the president of DC Comics or something like that. So, yeah.
So were you a fan of Jim Lee's work after he left Marvel and went to Image Comics? Because I know that Jim Lee, Mark Silvestri, Eric Larson, Todd McFarlane, Jim Valentino, right? Am I missing anybody?
Rob Liefeld.
Rob Liefeld. They all left their jobs at Marvel Comics and DC Comics, and they established this brand called Image Comics. So after Jim Lee had left Marvel Comics, were you following Jim Lee's new line of comics, The Wildcats?
No, so I actually didn't really know anything until, like, the first Jim Lee stuff I read was Batman Hush.
Okay.
So it was much later. And I actually never read his X-Men.
Oh, yes.
It was just like, I started getting into comics like late high school, and then really collected and started reading when I started going to college. So it was the Marvel Now and the New 52. So those were like when I started reading a lot, and then like kind of.
You have to remember, he's like, he's
almost
a
half our
decade
age.
younger.
Yeah.
No, he's not half. He's about a decade younger. So it's kind of like he was into more like probably like Pokemon and stuff, and like we were more like Thundercats and that kind of stuff. So,
Right.
Yeah.
So it seems to me that based on what you're saying, when you were in high school, you were introduced to comics, and I feel like, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's accurate if it's fair to say that you were inspired by the art of comics more so than comics itself in terms of story and stuff like that. Yeah. Okay. And at this point in time, you still had no formal training. You just drew for fun.
Yeah. I took art classes junior year and senior year of high school, but that was because I wanted to like pursue art.
Okay.
I needed to make a portfolio for college.
What kind of art classes were able to get you from where you were to where you are now?
I think college had the biggest impact.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because that was specifically art school.
Oh, where'd you go to?
So I
art
went
school?
to School of Visual Arts.
And that's like the primo school to go to in
Right.
New York for
comics.
For illustration and lots of other, like anything that's visual, painting and things like that. It's a very, very good school.
But I'm assuming in order to get in, you have to have some sort of a established portfolio before you get in.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So like you can't suck going in. So
No.
how did you unsuck before you went in? Or are you just one of those kids who were just always talented and then you were good enough to get in without any sort of formal training?
I don't know if it's like okay for me. I was better than the average person at
Right.
my age when
Right.
I was drawing, but because I always drew, like for fun.
He doesn't know that on this show I'm the most arrogant prick on the planet.
Yeah,
So
modesty
he's-
is being left at the door.
Right.
when it comes
So,
to the.
so let me just translate what he said. He was good.
It's good.
He was good.
Yes.
That was okay.
Even though this is the modesty part. He was really good. So he was talented. Didn't really have any formal training. So he pursued formal training by going into the top tier school for art. So that's a story that sounds like someone who was already good and then became great. How many years were you in? What year did you go to college?
So that was 18 to 22, 21,
Uh-huh.
to 4 years.
Okay.
Just like straight from 2011 to 2015.
That's cool. And how much would you say that the training that you got in college, and how much did that affect how your skill set is right now? Because I'm looking at this right here, and some your stuff is so good.
Thank you.
It's almost like witchcraft. Like this is beyond just like, hey, I like drawing. No, this is insane.
Thanks.
That Catwoman right there. So where, like, say you didn't go to school.
That's a recent one, right? That was.
I just finished it yesterday.
Yeah. I remember
Wow.
seeing it on your Instagram.
Yeah.
It was. It was in the pencil version.
Yeah.
So what did you learn in school that got you to this point?
There's a lot of things I learned. I think one of the most important things in college that had one of the biggest impacts in my abilities to draw was like the anatomy classes.
Mm-hmm.
I never really had proper anatomy classes before then, and that was like live nude model drawings and stuff like every week.
Oh, nice.
And
That's not like the kind. No, Roy. No, that's not. It's definitely not. It's not sexy time for that. No,
Okay.
it's just basically like you're sitting, and they don't tend to pick like the most like attractive.
So
type-
they're not getting
yeah.
like Elizabeth Olsen.
No, they're not.
Like-
No, they're not going to the.
Gotcha.
no.
All right. So anatomy classes were really important, obviously.
yeah.
Right. And continue.
Oh yeah, so I mean, it was just a lot of practice drawing like the muscles or just like people in different angles,
Mhm.
poses, and it was honestly just kind of trying like a lot of repetition, and then just getting used to drawing like a human body. And in comics you have to draw people in different angles, poses, like multiple times on one page,
Mm-hmm.
and so I think that helped a tremendous amount in my ability to draw people. And one of my professors that I have to name is Klaus Janson.
Klaus Janson.
Yeah, he was the inker for one of the Dark Knight Returns with Frank Miller. He did a ton
nice.
of Daredevil stuff, early Marvel years, and Punisher stuff, and Batman stuff. He was my first first year of college. It was a foundation year, so it was just like painting, drawing. I don't know. What is it? I don't know. Just
Sculpture.
Sculpture,
graphic design.
just like a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
And then starting my sophomore year was like the focus for cartooning comics.
Mhm.
And Klaus was my first teacher and taught me like everything I know about comics.
Wow.
And he destroyed me the first class because I came in thinking like, oh yeah, I love drawing all these crazy panels, and he's like, this doesn't make sense. And then I had to learn the formal way, like ground up on how to draw comics, and it was just, he was such a good teacher, and I see him now, and it's just great talking to him, going to cons and just seeing him.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
you still keep in touch with
Yeah,
his
yeah. He's
instructor?
one of the only professors I actually keep in touch with. But yeah, he had a great impact in
Wow.
all my drawing stuff. So in career, I guess.
When you talk about art, from what I'm picking up, and correct me if I'm wrong, you talk about sketching and penciling almost separately from inking. How different are the two aspects of putting art onto a page? right? Like this is inked Catwoman.
Yeah.
It started off as a sketch that looks like pencils, right? Like something closer to this.
Yeah.
It's not as clean and sharp.
Okay.
So after you get this, which by the way looks amazing,
Thank you.
is it a different skill set, or do you think it's a different art to go from pencils into the inks?
I think, yeah, it's different because the tools that you use will create different types of lines. There's different ways of like shading. You could cross hatch. You can just do like solid blacks. You can use gray tones. You ink wash. There's so many different styles and ways of inking that it does affect the final look of the art. And so when you look at, let's say like Jim Lee and like Scott Williams and Alex Sinclair, like that trio, you have a certain look to it. But if you had someone else inking Jim Lee's pencils, it'll look completely different.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so they did like a experiment, I think, where they had, this is kind of different, but like 50 different colorists color over like Jim Lee and Scott Williams' line work, and they just all look so different from each other. And it's like similar to that, where like the inking styles can change the art.
Oh wow!
And so
you said line work. What is that referring to? Line work meaning the pencils or the inks?
How did I mention line work again? Like inking over
You
the
were
line
saying,
work?
yeah.
So the pencils, yeah.
So the pencils is the line work. I see. Okay,
So,
that's cool.
Yeah, and then like I've had some people ink over my work professionally, and it just, even though like I know how I'm gonna ink over like a certain, like my own pencils, when I give that to somebody else, they read it a little differently. So they'll read the cross hatching a little differently, and just like the line widths and like the thickness of the line, like those are all like different.
Wow.
And it can look similar, but if you look closely, it looks different enough.
Like this, the skeleton is there, like the structure of it, the layout, the dynamic, shapes and things. But it could be like emphasis could be read on certain areas that you didn't initially intended it for to be on there.
So just for everybody watching or listening, if you don't understand, it's important to understand that when it comes to pencils and inking, the inker's job, the guy who goes over the pencils, his job isn't just to trace the pencils. There's an actual skill.
Despite Chasing Amy, which was a famous comic book related movie from Kevin Smith, where he was talking about that inkers just trace. It's pretty fan. You should definitely check it out. It's a
never seen.
Yeah, it's a fun movie.
I don't think they like the word trace.
No, it was used in a very derogatory way that then spurred a fight. It was funny.
Yeah.
Right. So there's more to the inker. So I would say the inker's job is just as critical as the penciler's job. So having said that, though, I know that you do your own pencils and you do your own inks. Is that because you prefer to have the look ultimately as you see it, or is it? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think starting early on too, I was like very particular in how I wanted, my art to look, and even I think I'm pretty OCD with my art too. So it's like if I see like one line just like a little messed up, that'll like bother me. So if I have someone else ink it and then
you see that later,
and then I can't tell them to like change everything or something like that. So I'd rather just do it. And then it's like, even with the colors now, I think I'm trying to learn how to color better so I can color the way I want it to be colored instead of having somebody else color. But then there's like timing issues. It takes a lot longer.
Right, because you do a lot of work. Every time I see you, you're working and you're not wasting time. And which is why I really appreciate you coming on the show, because this is really, I know how busy you are, and
he keeps the X-rated stuff in the back. So
right.
that's why you're looking.
No, so I want to talk a little bit.
Turn one more.
I want to talk a little bit about your experience, right? So I'm interested in knowing, because we have a common. We both come from Korean American families. We're both Korean American. We come from families. We're second generation, I'm assuming. You're assuming?
First generation.
First generation?
Yeah.
You were born in the U.S.?
No, I was born in Korea, but basically was born.
Okay, so you're first generation. So I know how my parents are. I told them, I want to be an artist. And they're like, we'd rather you be dead. You have to be a doctor or a lawyer, right? That kind of thing. What kind of experience did you, how was it for you growing up telling your parents?
So I found out my parents didn't know. I applied to art school.
Mm-hmm.
I went to boarding school for middle school and high school, and so obviously when I was applying to colleges, I was away, and I thought I told them, but yeah, they found out later when I was like visiting schools, and then it was just like all art schools. I did apply to Stony Brook as like a backup,
Right.
but I got rejected from them.
Turned out for the better.
Yeah. But yeah, no, they were fine.
Oh, they
it,
were
I think.
supportive of
Yeah.
that?
My parents both did music too,
Oh,
so they're
okay.
both kind of like in the arts in
Oh,
a way.
cool. Where did they go to school?
I don't know the exact name, but I know they went to Italy for a conservatory. Italy or Germany.
Okay.
One of those. Yeah.
Oh, wow. So they were both, your parents being both musicians, have hands deep in the art, so they supported you when.
Yeah.
So you graduated in 2021.
2015.
2015.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Why do I think 2021?
I don't know.
How long after you graduated the School of Visual Arts in 2015 did it take for you to get your first paying job as an artist?
So, during the last 2 years of school, I had like two buddies that were very, I guess, driven, like same way I was, and we kind of teamed up to like do these conventions. There was one called Mocha Fest in the city,
Right.
Museum of Comic and Cartoon Art,
Mm-hmm.
and they held like a convention, and we got a table, split like a 6-foot table between the three of us, and we're like squeezed in together, like selling our art. And then that was junior year, and we did that senior year. And then right after school, I looked up conventions, like local conventions in New York, and I found like Eternal Con, which is like one in Long Island. And then I just started to look up a bunch of different local cons that I can go to, because I found that a lot of comic artists go to these cons to make business.
Network,
yeah.
Right.
Make connections like work wise and like sell their work. Like, yeah, it's a good opportunity, just like all over. And yeah, I started doing conventions like almost immediately. I think Eternal Con at the time was in June, and I graduated in May. So it was like 1 month after.
Nice.
I had stuff that I made during school and like in the like my free time, I guess. Made prints and like whatever, and tried to sell all that stuff. And then when I was there, I was taking commissions, and then all of those things helped me kind of just to like post on my Instagram, kind of advertise myself, and then that led to other people reaching out for commissions.
Cool.
Yeah, and like slowly I started like doing live streaming on Twitch. I think that was like September or October or something, and then people on Twitch would ask me to do commissions, and then so like paid work, if you count commissions, it was like almost immediate. But then first published gig, I think wasn't until like 2018. I think, and it was like late 2018. And at the time, I was actually thinking like, if I don't get like a comic gig, I might have to like rethink how I'm approaching this.
Right.
And then like a month, I gave myself until the end of that year, and then like I think in like November, I got a message on Instagram asking if I could work on the book.
What was
Nice.
the book that you got at the end of 2018?
It's hard to advertise this because I'm not a big fan of their company anymore.
Oh,
but,
okay.
It was Captain Canuck.
Okay,
it was,
never heard of it.
Yeah, I don't know. If,
I'm guessing a Canadian superhero.
yeah, it was a company in Canada, and they don't pay well.
Oh, I see.
But they don't pay well. It's not that they don't pay well. They don't pay on time.
Ah.
And I think that like I had to track them down
Oh, wow.
to get paid, and it took
that
over like
blows.
2 years.
Yeah, that's no good.
Yeah.
That's not
Well,
good.
that's the business aspect of things, and I mean, you were used to dealing with a lot of people individually with doing commissions, and usually people who are doing commissions, they're like, I will give you any sum of money to make something that beautiful.
Yeah.
But like then a publisher is kind of like behind a business aspect and is like, oh, we need an artist to make this book. It's like, well, artists, oh, whatever, give them a few shekels and let you know.
Well, just people may not know. I don't know. What do you mean when you say commissions?
Okay, so commissions are like more personal. So it's just like if you were interested, like you could, if you wanted an image of Captain America, right, then I have a price list of like size, like paper size. So it's like 9 by 12 or like 11 by 17, and then you can get like a head, like a bust, which is like waist up, and then or like a full body shot.
Okay.
And then I think you can kind of say it's like gambling almost, because you don't know how it's going to turn out, but you know my art, so you kind of have like an idea of what it will be. But yeah, if let's say you wanted like a full body Captain America, then I would draw you something, and then you pay me, and then I'll give it to you.
To put it in the context of people who enjoy fountain pens, is that if, let's say, you were buying just a off the shelf, regular, like, let's say Edison versus a customized one that you would buy directly from the company, where you say, I would like this material, I would like this type of nib, tune it to being like 7/10 wetness, and have it be tapered here and put like a dragon roll stop on it. It's just, you would be able to customize it whatever way that you want to.
That's cool. Can you talk a little bit about your experience in terms of, so you went from this Captain Crunch, what's the name of the
Canuck.
Captain Canuck, right? So you
Captain
went from
Crunch.
him, and then how long after, when did you start working for Marvel Comics?
Oh, Marvel was 2 years ago.
Okay, so 2021 about.
I think so.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. What was that like? Like, how do you get your foot into the door working for Marvel?
So I've been going to cons, like doing comic related stuff for 8 years now, right? And I've been going to cons for like that long. So every time I went to a con, it was like my goal to kind of meet other people, also like make money, but like meet people in the industry. And there were certain cons that had Marvel and like DC portfolio reviews. And I remember I submitted my stuff to get reviews from them, and they're very like limited, like amount of people only get selected. And I was lucky enough to get selected for some of them, and then I got my portfolio reviewed by one of these editors at Marvel. His name is Ricky Purdon. He happened to also, I think, go to SVA, and so we kind of connected there. So that's where I initially met him, and then usually they send we reconnect after emails, and I asked them if they can send me sample pages or sample scripts that I can do pages for, and then that kind of didn't lead anywhere because at the time I was also working on a different project, so it was just hard to kind of set the time aside to do those sample pages. But I think a couple years later, a friend reintroduced me to him, and then and then I think I was just waiting for the right project. And then one day I just got an email from someone at Marvel asking if I could do 5 pages for a book. And then I had to double check that email because I was not sure if it was real or not.
This must be phishing.
Yeah.
Is this fake?
And so that's I think they kind of keep you in mind as long as you're a little bit pushy, you kind of send them emails to remind them, and then they kind of remember you for and then see if there's a project that fits, because they're not just going to give you a Spider-Man book,
right?
The first project I did, I think, was 5 pages of a story, and it was for the AAPI Marvel Voices issue, and so it was very short, 5 pages, but it got my foot in the door.
Right.
And I started doing covers here and there, and then.
What was the next cover that you did? Really quick.
Yeah.
You were mentioning cons. So for everybody watching or listening, cons is like comic cons, and they're kind of like the DC pen shows for comic books. So you would go there, you would get yourself a table, and you would pay to be there, right? And then you would just do sketches. People would be walking by, buying comics. They'd see him, and then he would submit a book like this with a bunch of his drawings. Like this one here is Dragon Ball Z. This one here is
Violet Evergarden.
Violet Evergarden. I mean, this is so he would submit this for review. Basically, it's like an audition, and the people at Marvel would look at it and they would critique it.
Yeah, they would tell me what I would need to kind of work on, but yeah, they'll critique it.
Yeah. Okay, so then, so what he was saying before is it's almost like an audition process where he doesn't get. Everybody can't just submit to Marvel and get it looked at. So it's almost like they'll filter out a bunch of people that suck, and then they get to the people that suck less, down to the people that don't suck, down to the people who are good, down to the people who are not just good but great, and then from there they pick the best of the best. So he was able to get his in, which is really awesome. Now, I wanted to ask you about so you've been working for them for about 2 years, Marvel Comics, right?
Yeah.
Tiger Division is a series that was released in November of 2022, and I purchased all 5 issues of Tiger Division. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and what I really like is it's a South Korean-based superhero group, and it's not just a derivative of the X-Men, but there's a lot of Korean elements in the characters, right? So there's the Taeguki, which means something in Korean, right?
Isn't it just Korean flag?
Yeah.
I think.
It's also the name of a movie that made me really sad about the Korean War. So there's different characters, and they take on traits of common characteristics of Korean people, which I think is great because you've never had that before. But how did you end up doing and being the guy for the Tiger Division?
So it started with doing like the 5 pages here, 10 pages there, like a full issue. I did the full issue for like the annual X-Men Marauders issue. And so they kind of got an idea of like how I can do like a full issue. And then that kind of just led into a full book. And so I think, with this new project, Tiger Division is very like, South Korean centered. So they wanted South Korean or just Korean creators, right? And so I think I was right for the job. And so, yeah, they kind of just sent me an email asking, if I'm able to work on this book. And it was like a Korean superhero team. And yeah.
Now these are characters that did not exist anywhere else before. Like in this miniseries, it was completely done from scratch, right?
No, so they were introduced. There was the Tiger Division without Taeguki. They were introduced, I think, in a Black Cat issue.
Okay.
Just like a couple pages, and then Taeguki was introduced in the issue of Taskmaster.
Okay.
Yeah, and then and then I think later they just combined it and then made it into its own series.
I see.
So what is the process of starting a comic book from beginning to end like? How long does it take? Because an average comic book is about 22 pages, right? So what's that process like? You have a blank sheet of paper, 11 by 17, right? And how long does one page take you to sketch and then ink from start to finish, just for one single page?
So it depends on what's happening on the page or how much there's to draw. Usually, I think I could do like a page of pencils in like a day or like half a day, and then inking usually takes like a full day, which could be like 6 to like 12 hours.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
So pencils take you about 6 hours.
Yeah, pencils can. Yeah, it can take me like 3 to 6.
3 to 6 hours, and then inking is. It seems like that takes up more of the time.
Because I'm inking my own stuff, I don't have to be so like detailed with my pencils. So I can kind of just like scribble, sketch, and then I'll have an idea of. I already know like. How
Yeah. Can you explain that to everybody watching and listening? When you say since you're inking your own stuff, you can be less detailed with your pencil. So that means if say Marvel said, "Hey, we only want you to pencil. We don't want you to ink because we need you to pump out more pages in pencil." Does that mean now? I'm assuming that your pencils have to be near perfect, so that way the person inking it doesn't have to interpret anything.
They do have to be more detailed.
Yeah.
It's like providing instructions for like this is what this should look like, and like, I guess maybe if you were also working with somebody for a lot longer, like if you're working with a certain inker and you knew you guys had like a really good like vibe together, that like you could just send a page, kind of like how you would do for yourself, but then know that the other person was gonna. But if you don't know, then you have to be very specific.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know if you caught this, but in the middle of issue 3, there's another inker that starts inking my work.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So for that, I was kind of running behind on schedule because I was taking very long inking my own stuff, and we had to bring in another inker, and I had to spend more time on my pencils, but in the end, it still saved a lot of time because I wasn't inking anymore.
You're going to be going back now and like looking at,
Yeah.
you're like,
Well, I have
where
my iPad
where
here, so we
exactly
can,
in that book did it transfer over?
Yeah,
And then you're going to be like, oh, there it is.
Yeah.
I see it.
Right.
So issue 4 and 5 I just did the pencils for.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I see.
I think the inker, he started to get used to like my work and like what I was kind of like looking for in the inks, and so I think they get better because he gets a better feel for them
Right.
as we went on.
I see. I want to talk a little bit about your tools because, as you may or may not know, our podcast and our social media presence.
Because we're tools. That's why. That's where you're getting
Your tool. So we focus heavily in fountain pens, and we're into art and stuff like that. So one of the things that I've always done is when I drew, or myself, or when Tom draws, we use fountain pens to ink and stuff. Now, when we were chatting at one point in time, you said you don't use fountain pens, right?
Yeah.
What was the reason for that?
There's a couple reasons. One of them is it's unpredictable to know when it's gonna like do the splatter, like when it gets caught on the paper and it makes like a little like splatter. There's that. There's the ink takes a lot longer to dry, and then I think constantly cleaning the tip. Actually, it might be different because the fountain pens that I would use is a dip pen, so you would constantly have to dip in the ink and then clean it, and then
I will tell you from my own personal experience, and that's how I had gotten the first taste of what a nib was like. Was through the lens of doing it for like comic book art when I was in my teenage years.
Yeah,
and I ran into the same issue.
Yeah,
you were dipping in a bottle of Higgins fountain pen black ink or whatever, and these nibs were they're super fine. And what happens is if you go up the wrong way,
It creates a spatter.
it just like the tines just kind of like trip over their own feet, and then just like I didn't mean to do that, but it kind of looks cool, but it's not really appropriate in my context.
It's like
but then when I tried real fountain pens that either contain their own ink and have like the iridium tip nibs and stuff like that, I was like, oh well, this is a lot different.
Yeah,
this isn't like I remember with like my first experience with that, where it was just kind of like a haphazard mess of like getting in trouble with that ink splattering everywhere.
Do the fountain pens have flexible tips?
Some of them do.
Oh, really?
Some of them do.
Yeah. So the ones that have flexible tips they generally are more money.
Yeah.
Like for example, the flexible tip fountain
Like
pen.
the Pilot Falcon.
This is a Pilot Falcon.
This is a Pilot Falcon.
Yeah, this pen here has a very flexible tip. It's a 14 karat gold tip.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
I
so
feel like I can't even touch it.
yeah, so it
has a
does
little
it does
bounce.
bend a bit.
Okay.
Right.
Oh, interesting.
So is that an extra fine or a fine?
It is an extra fine.
Extra fine. So it gives you a very fine. It doesn't give you the spatter, as long as you know that when you're on the downstroke is when you do the pressure, right?
Yeah.
Not on the upstroke, right? 'Cause
What's
if
the
you-
upstroke?
So, like for example, this is a downstroke, right? If I'm writing my name R, right, the downstroke is going down.
Yeah.
As I go sideways, I would not press down, right?
Okay.
It's only gonna spread going
okay.
down, right? So a lot of people like to use this for inking and stuff like that.
Yeah. That's
So-
really cool.
You use micron pens. These are
Yeah.
micron pens. Can you talk to me about why you use these? Like I'm looking at these band-aids that are on here. Like what's the story with these pens? Why do they have band-aids?
I tend to grip my pens like really tight for some reason, and so it just helps it have a thicker width, so I'm not like holding on so tight with my fingers. Also, it's like a non-slip kind of thing, so it's just a little bit more cushion.
I see.
So it's like if I'm pressing, tightly on this pen, there's actually some like give. So it's just more for cushion and comfort.
And I'm seeing that these have different tip sizes.
Yeah.
Right.
So I use the PN. I think it's a plastic nib. It's a newer one, and it allows you to kind of get like some line variation.
Okay.
Not like these, because the other microns, they're just very like they just have like a
super fine.
nib. Yeah, they just have like one line width.
Okay.
And
this is your pencil case right here. Do you mind taking
Yeah.
your
I
tools out and let's
took
see
the main ones, but that's a lot of the same stuff. This one I've used for a very long time. Is the Pentel Graph 1000. I joke around that this is the pencil of destiny, and it's almost like I've lent this to a lot of famous artists because usually the bigger names, they don't carry their own pencils, and then I'm like sitting there at the cons, and then I'm in a company called Comic Sketch Art. They're my art reps for like conventions and stuff, and we have like some of the biggest names like Greg Capullo. And like, Mark Silvestri is part of our group.
One of my favorites,
Frank Miller is part of our group.
Oh wow!
And so we have like a bunch of artists, and usually when they're at these cons and trying to do sketches, they don't have like their own pencils. So my company, like my friends, know to come up to me and ask because I have this pencil, and I feel like if I let them use it, I kind of steal their powers.
Oh, right.
Kind of like a Space Jam.
That's how it works, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So
yeah.
What is the process like? Let's say you were going to sketch something right now. Do you start with a different pencil? And then move?
So I do have these lead holders. It's basically the same. My brother just got me this one, but this is more like I have H lead in here, and so it's very light. So I could just get like a basic sketch down.
Is that the 2mm?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'll just do a basic sketch with this, and then I will go in with this one. I think this is a Kuratoga. This one's just HB, I believe, and then I'll just start detailing with this, and that's how I'll like get my pencil sketch down. I do have this one, which is a 03. I used this when I did final pencils. So like when I was doing the pencils for like Tiger Division, and I had to do like detailed pencils for the inker, I would use this as like almost like the inking tool, but in pencils.
And is that a softer lead?
This is also softer as in like it'll go darker.
Okay, so it's not an H lead. It's like probably
it's
like
a 2B.
Oh, 2B.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Scantron paper pencil.
And so the 03 would help me get like the really fine details. And then
I like the Kurotogas because when you're using them, like every time you lift the pencil, it rotates the lead so it doesn't like get that flat edge on the lead. That would make
thinner line.
Yeah, it always keeps a very thin line.
How is that possible?
So if you look here, it kind of has a give, and then this will rotate.
Oh wow, that's a lot of engineering into it.
Yeah,
they're actually surprisingly inexpensive for as awesome as they are.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Well, the reason we want to get into the tools, and I want to thank our sponsors, Gold Spot Pens and Luxury Brands of America, is because we just want we brought some stuff from toys for you, okay? Starting with the reveal of the Pilot Falcon.
Yes.
Right? The Pilot Falcon has an MSRP of, what is it?
Are you going to test me right now? Because I don't have this encyclopedic knowledge.
Right.
I think they're over $250.
Right, they're about $250. And these are very popular pens for artists in the fountain pen industry. We're not telling you to use this when you're doing your stuff, but if you're messing around, this is one of the pens that you brought for him, right?
Yes.
Right?
Thank you.
But the thing is, a pen is useless without ink.
Oh, it is. But then also, too, is that we had the pencil. This is from Bryce had sent this. This is a Platinum Pro Use pencil.
Yeah, maybe I can...
The pencil, I think, that is something... So Platinum makes great pencils. Platinum is a Japanese company, right?
Oh, this looks really cool.
Yeah. And I don't know what kind of lead it is. I don't know much about pencils or anything like that. But Bryce is our buddy from Luxury Brands of America. He's a distributor for a lot of brands. Everybody who's watching this or listening, they know who Bryce is. They know who Luxury Brands is. You may not. But this is a pencil that we hope that you can find useful
thank you so much.
When doing your amazing art. And over here, what is that, Tom?
This is the newest release of ink from Platinum. It is the Chukuro. I think it's pronounced that way, but it's the blackest of black inks.
Oh wow!
So and it's also permanent too. Archival type permanent. Comes in a very fancy looking box, and it's supposedly more black than the regular Platinum Carbon Black, which already has kind of a reputation of use with artists, like Carbon Black does. But when you compare both of these blacks together, this is even like darker.
Oh wow!
Right. So it's so black and it's permanent, meaning once it dries and sets into the paper, it won't go anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So like if you're writing checks or you're doing something like art, you have to let it dry because otherwise if you erase over it and it's not dry, you know what happens.
Yeah.
It's going to smear. But this one is so black, it's like it'll suck. Like if we open the bottle, it'll suck in all the light and then we'll just get sucked into infinity.
Is it a matte finish or?
I don't know, but
glossy?
we're probably gonna see, right?
Okay.
Are we gonna,
Maybe.
we could do like a little bit of like a
I could do, like, a
demonstration.
demo, yeah.
Yeah.
So this is what you would fill that fountain pen with.
Yes.
Right? So when you're not doing a page that can get screwed up, you know, and you want to just mess around, that's there for you. What else we got in there?
The other thing on here would be the paper aspect,
Oh,
which
wow.
would be, this is a endless, they call it, I think, the creative block. Yes, the creative block. They call it the creative block, and it's a tear-away notepad that's got fountain pen friendly paper on it. So this is also
So it's
blank.
resistant to ink. It's not going to bleed through or ghost and stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So,
let's get rid of this.
but this may be it's got like a little bit more of a tooth than, let's say, a smooth Bristol board type of thing, or like a typical comic page would, I think.
Yeah.
But it handles all of the fountain penning. So you could, like, let's say, do a sketch and then do like washes over it, and the page is not going to buckle at all.
Oh, okay.
It's going to stay pretty smooth and fairly, yeah. So it's pretty nice. It's a good solid paper for mostly for fountain pen use, but
Yeah.
you know, for illustrations, I think it works well too.
Yeah.
So,
Who's that from? Is that from?
this is from Bryce as well. So
Oh.
yeah.
Oh,
so,
that's right. Bryce is distributing for
Endless, yeah.
Endless. I forgot about that.
So we have
Even
that
though I
there,
talk
too.
about it every week on the podcast. but- yeah. So this is just some of the stuff that Goldspot and luxury brands and myself, even though it's not for me, I just call them up and be like, hey, give them some stuff,
Thank you.
and they make it happen. So you know, we're very honored and happy to have you on the show, and we're going to take a little bit of a break, and then when we come back, we're going to do a draw off, right? But we can't make things too easy for you, right?
Why
So,
not? Why not?
so we're gonna maybe you could rock this. one,
Yeah, I
maybe.
can definitely use these tools.
Yeah, and
This
then
paper.
give it a shot. You know, let's see. So we're throwing in some variables, and
Do you guys do like giveaways on your podcast? Maybe I can do a giveaway of the.
Oh,
sketch.
that would be fantastic. Yeah, we
Yeah.
definitely do giveaways. If something happens, and you know, if we have something to give away, a lot of times it's usually me giving away his stuff
Okay.
from Goldspot.
He's more or less thinking that with the product that's going to end up coming out, it's not like giveawayable, but I think it will be. I think it will look
I
really
absolutely think so.
Oh.
Yeah. So I brought my pencil. This is my personal pencil that I use.
If you don't mind, can you use this one
Yeah, sure.
so I can steal your
What's that?
steal your talent?
I actually think that if I use it, it'll like
Maybe
pull
it'll
away
make
from-
you better.
Maybe it'll make me better. But I'm afraid
You'll
that-
use all the talent that it's stolen.
Like my concern is if I use this one, and then you get it back, you're going to be sitting there drawing, and then you're just going to have like spasms, like you'll have taken my ADHD. quality.
Also, he tends to be very like heavy-handed when it comes to using
Oh,
things.
no,
So all of a sudden, he's going to hand that back to you. It's going to have like a smushed like point
it's
somehow.
like a bent.
It's just
No,
gonna
I'll be very careful. But yeah, when we come back, we're going to draw Captain America. We're going to take a wee break and everything like that. And
Not
yeah.
all together though.
what's that? No.
Yeah, okay.
That's the camaraderie, right? All right. So we're going to take a real quick break. We're back, but before we get started, just a real quick shout out to my very good friend Kari.bullet.journal on Instagram. She gave me these prints that she made. Thank you, Kari. We love you. I love you. You're the best. All right. So what we're going to do now is I also want to shout out eBear for the Entertainment Podcast sticker. Love this thing. So what we're going to do now is Creees is going to take us through a drawing, and I picked Captain America obviously because, you know, he reminds me a lot about myself. I'm just kidding, that's not true. But my favorite character is Captain America, so I'm using Creees' pencil in hopes that whatever talent that I have will embed into this pencil. I'm worried that I'm going to actually take away from it, but you know, he's willing to risk that. And Tom, myself, is going to follow along as Creees Lee shows us how to draw Captain America. All right. So I guess we're gonna have to. Can we use the cardstock paper, or what paper do you want us to use?
Oh, sorry.
Okay, so if you look at this paper, it's a very thick cardstock type paper. This is what he does his commissions on. So normally at a Comic-Con or a show, he'll draw something and then he'll sell the drawing. I'm gonna draw this, and I'm probably gonna owe somebody money by the end of it. Okay, so my weapon of choice is gonna be, what is this called again?
The Graph 1000. Pentel Graph 1000.
Pentel Graph 1000.
I will be using the Pro Use
Okay.
171. Thank you.
And I have the Uniball Kurutoga, and that's a 0.5 millimeter.
And that one is actually belongs to Tom. That's yours. As
It does, yes.
Yeah. Anyone would know that just based on the color that Tom likes to
pretty
choose.
much.
I will let you borrow this, but this doesn't suck the talent out of people. So there's nothing in there.
I'm kind of nervous. I'm like, this is my first time being taught how to draw. Other than using this book here, the How to Draw Comics the Marvel Way. Now, this is like a quintessential book, right? When it comes to comic art. You wanted to tell a story about this book.
Yeah, so I actually have that book, but my math teacher from middle school, so from 4th through 8th grade, there was a math teacher named Daniel O'Keefe, and he was just one of the coolest teachers, and for a graduation gift, he got me that book.
Oh, wow.
And
Nice.
I forget exactly what the note said, but it was like, hope you draw like these people someday. And then it's crazy because now I work for Marvel. So.
Yeah, that is really awesome. That is really awesome. All right, so Captain America time.
Yeah. Wait, so I'm teaching you guys?
Yeah.
Okay. What kind of drawing should we do? Like a head sketch or?
Let's do.
Let's try to keep it like relatively simple.
No.
Or do you want to do like your own version and then I don't know. What do you think would be?
Let's do like a full top to bottom.
Full body.
Yeah. Is that a lot?
That's a lot.
Oh, is it a lot? All right. So I'll tell you what. You decide.
Okay.
You're the chef. We'll follow with the ingredients.
Okay.
That doesn't make any sense. Whatever.
Head sketch is usually the easiest.
Okay.
I think especially with the amount of time, that would probably be the best choice. So, I don't want to force the style or anything.
Let's force
But
style.
The way I start is I'll just start with like a circle.
Okay.
If we're gonna do like a 3/4 view, I kind of figure out the direction that he's looking at, so I'm gonna make it so he's facing left.
Okay.
And then I'll draw this like bisecting line a little bit further than the circle because that's where the chin. Oh, this is hard to explain as I'm drawing. So circle is kind of just to get the round shape of a face, and then I know that when I draw the face, the chin's gonna be a little lower.
Okay.
So I end up kind of with a shape like this.
Okay. Mine's like Jay Leno already.
Yeah. So I kind of have the back of the head kind of going further out because
I see.
it's kind of how the skull is shaped, if that makes sense.
And this is where the anatomy
Yes.
concept comes in, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the face has a lot of general like mathematical rules, and so when you have the top of the head here and the bottom of the head here, when you kind of get the half point, that's kind of where the eyes will go.
The half point of the square.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or the half point of this Y length.
I
if
see.
That makes sense.
Okay. So this is where the
about
eyes are
halfway.
going.
Yeah. So Jim Lee actually does like the rule of thirds. So he'll actually divide it into threes. So technically the eyes can go anywhere between like the top third and the half line, but I kind of go with the half.
Okay.
And then you get this half length, and then draw that line. That's usually where the nose goes. So from the eyes to the chin, you get that half, and that's usually.
Is that right?
Yeah. And then half of the nose to the chin is usually a little bit above the half line is usually the mouth.
Okay.
I guess we're just learning facial anatomy right now. And then it's not really relative now, but usually half of the eyes to the head is where the hairline goes. At least that's kind of how I do it. But because Captain America wears, like a mask, you don't really need that. And so, yeah. And then I'll kind of just lay out the eyes here.
So eyes are going to be the halfway,
center, yeah.
that center mark there.
This line right here?
Yes.
Okay.
And then kind of mark the nose. I guess we're just drawing a general head.
Oh, it'll look like Captain America eventually.
With the details.
We'll give it the Captain America look.
Yeah. And then the mouth. And then Captain America kind of, he's like the.
He's got the cleft chin.
Yeah. So kind of prominent chin.
Okay.
Maybe like a little butt chin, that sort of thing.
And then with the cheeks, I learned a lot by copying Jim Lee. And so I feel like, I don't know, it's just, I don't know what kind of line that is.
It's kind of like a bowling pin edge, right? Upside down bowling.
Oh, a bit, yeah.
He's got good words.
I got good words.
He's got good words.
And then kind of drawing that brows. Usually the deeper brows or the more prominent brows, you have like deeper eyes and it's like, I don't know, looks more superhero-ish. And then just the forehead, head. So if I can say it real quick, maybe like this high.
Okay.
Because then the forehead's like getting too long. The ears usually goes, the height of the ears, top is like where the eye line is, and then the bottom kind of meets where the nose goes. So it kind of ends up looking something like this. And then this is the jawline usually.
Yours already looks like a person. Mine kind of looks like a crash test dummy.
It's a good start, right?
Okay, wow. So then you filled in the back of the skull, right down.
And then the neck. And he needs some thick traps.
This is starting to look like you, Roy.
Yeah.
Yeah, secretly I'm just drawing wrong.
Yes.
And then usually, like, I tend to draw a lot of lines when I'm sketching. And so before I go into like the details, I'll use this kneading eraser. Kind of just roll it on top of the drawing to pick up a lot of the pencils, so it lightens it up. So I can sketch.
But you're erasing you're erasing like all that you did.
But you can still see.
Oh, I can, but like barely now.
But then I'm gonna draw.
How am I supposed to copy if you're
We're trying to copy your answers here.
And then I'll draw the details on top of this.
Oh wow!
So I don't like get it too filled with pencils. If you guys want to borrow.
Yeah, sure. I'll do that too.
Yeah.
So this is
that is a heavily used kneaded eraser because I could tell it was supposed to be like a light gray.
Yeah. I have to switch it out.
So you could afford getting another one, right? No, it's just it just absorbs all of the darkness of people. That's what it does.
Okay, is that good enough?
Yeah, as long as you can see the underlying drawing.
Okay.
Thank you. Well,
you draw very light.
I didn't really do that much.
Yeah.
I'll wait on it.
So I can still see, right?
Yeah, and then so now I'll just like start adding the details because I know where everything should go right now.
All right, so you can go ahead and do that. We'll just sit here and copy you.
Okay.
I gotta figure out how to do the eyes.
Yeah, eyes are usually like so different per like everyone's style, and so
I forget, like Captain America's got like what kind of like eyes? Like I just feel like that's like such a.
Also like
he does like the because it's like Batman kind of like when he has the mask on, like his eyes are like white.
No. There you can see them.
You can actually see them.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you draw the eyes first, I'll show you like how to draw the helmet. At least the original costume. I don't really do the movie costumes because they get way too complicated.
Oh, Jesus. Wow, that's a good eye.
Thank you. I practice a lot.
Yeah. Oh, so you actually use dashes and stuff, like you don't like fill out the lines completely.
No, yeah, because if I'm gonna ink it, I kind of get a general idea of what kind of line I want, and then yeah. So
And you start off doing this knowing that you are the inker, right?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Just drawing the helmet. So
Oh, wow.
No.
Jeez,
What is the
I
end
love
of
how
it?
much depth your eye has versus the one that I did. Like it already looks more like an eye. And what is this line here?
Oh, so I was about to draw the helmet, but I was waiting for Tom.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tom holding
And so-
everybody up again.
The helmet kind of, if you want to think about, like, these are the brows right here.
Okay.
It kind of goes, I tend to draw the helmet, like the top of the eye part, like kind of closer to the eye, so they look angrier. But yeah, it kind of goes over, and then there's some space, like, underneath the eye.
Underneath, yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, because if you don't draw the mask high enough or like low enough, then you'll end up drawing like the brows, and then yeah. Might have to end up drawing a bit of the brows.
So do you think copying art is a good way of learning how to draw?
Yes.
Yeah.
I copied so many people. But obviously, I don't take credit for. I don't copy someone else's work professionally for professional work and then like say that I made it. Always credit to people that you copy.
I'm totally gonna take pictures of your work and post it as my Instagram drawings.
Now, do you get people who ask you for like commissions of other people's work that then you kind of feel weird or you don't want to do because it is other people's work, or
Like other people's characters?
yeah,
or
other people's like characters like that they made?
No, I'm fine with drawing other people's characters as long as I'm able to kind of have the freedom to like pose them however. Or
Gotcha.
like, I don't tend to not like when people are too like asking for something so specific. Like they want a certain angle, like certain pose, and then it just kind of takes the fun out of creating something.
Right, like less of your own creative influence. It's just basically like they're just asking you to produce. It's almost like somebody's like asking like an AI. It's just like I want this
Exactly.
image exactly like it is. It's like, well,
Then
you
just
know,
get them to do it.
yeah,
you know?
yeah, just
Or
ask
just print
somebody
out
else
the
to print it
picture.
out, yeah.
So when I get the scripts for comics, it depends on the writers, but some writers tend to be more descriptive, and so they want certain angles, certain some people I've heard, I haven't had this experience, but like they'll actually create the layouts for the page, and then I tend to like the creative freedom to make my own layout.
Right.
So I'm not just like drawing exactly what the writer wants, but it's more of a collaborative project.
So usually, like a writer would just have a written description of what's going on.
Yeah.
But some of them, what you're saying is like,
Extreme
well, actually,
cases will have like it
like
all laid
like
out.
flesh it out a little bit. It's like, well, why aren't you doing the pencils? for this? What am I doing here?
Unless it's like so specific just for that one page, I think that's fine if they had a certain vision for it. But if it's like the whole comic is just so like directive and like, you know, I think I wouldn't be too interested in working on that. But yeah, his helmet kind of has like an open nose, so it kind of goes over the nose bridge. And I think this is what it looks like. This is all from memory, so it might be a bit off.
We could look it up in the. Is this cheating? Are we cheating? I gotta look at a reference. There we go. This classic Jack Kirby style Captain America mask for reference.
Oh, so he draws it straight down. Classic. Sorry.
Oh, jeez.
I moved too quick.
No, keep going, man. Keep going. I love this. You know, if we can't keep up, it is what it is. I just like to see how you're doing stuff, you know. And plus, we got this all on film, so we can always go back and look at it. Wow, is that how fast you draw? It's almost like you're not even trying.
How would you recommend for like the nose, for like the nostrils, like?
So I tend to, if it's in this angle, I'll draw the front of the nose like this, and then the nostrils, it kind of, I don't know, the hole tends to just kind of be on the side of it, if that makes sense. And then there's like the side of the nostril right here, this line.
Okay.
Some people, depending on the emotion that you want to show, they'll draw like this, the top of the nostrils like this too. And then this will actually lead into like someone flaring, like with their mouth being more wide, their cheeks will, you know, the wrinkles right here will form. Yeah, so
that gives it like the facial expressions.
Yeah. I feel like my words aren't very descriptive. Not as
Now they
clear.
say that when you teach, you're teaching like not only the person that is like absorbing the lesson, but then like also yourself too. Like you're finding out like more about your own process by being able to then describe it. So
yeah, I just realized I'm not very good.
That's not true.
I mean, a lot of this stuff is kind of like is almost like intuitive, especially if you're doing this all the time. It's just muscle
like you
memory.
probably don't even think about it, right? Like you don't even articulate it to
muscle
yourself.
memory, yeah. The mask kind of goes there in the original costume. So I don't know if this is true. It's probably true because I'm not saying that's true because Jim Lee said it, but he also was like, he studied med. But Jim Lee said that the ear is unique to every person. So it's kind of like fingerprints.
That is true, yeah.
So
Ears are hard to draw.
yeah.
Hands, ears, and feet. Well, I mean, not for you. But
No, they still are. I kind of I feel like I'm gonna.
my Captain America looks about 12 years old.
They gotta start somewhere, right?
Yeah, that's true.
I think if you make the overall head Do you mind?
Yeah, no, go for it.
If I make the overall head bigger to fit the facial feature sizes, then I think if you make the chin a little bigger, then it could look a little more
Manly.
yeah.
Now, you use paper and inks and pencils. Have you ever like just wanted to like try like Procreate or digital format?
Oh, I do use Procreate.
Well, that's a lot better.
For certain things. I'll do like a initial layout or like sketches on digital, just because it's very easy to edit those. Especially when like it's for professional work and they need to approve it. Then I'll use Procreate, but for the final pieces, I'll use paper and pencil. I just like having the original piece.
Now, I noticed that when you come here, you sit down at the coffee shop, right? You do your drawings and stuff. Like, has it ever happened where like you're drawing something and then you like spill coffee all over it and stuff? Or because that would be my biggest fear.
I've had little droplets of coffee up here on my paper, maybe from like the straw flicking or something. But never a major spill.
Oh, and how do you
Luckily.
how do you preserve?
Whiteout, or I'll just
use
edit it
whiteout.
out digitally if it's not that big.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
There's a big A on his head, right?
Yeah.
Now, how many hours are you capable of sitting down and just drawing for?
When it comes like crunch time, I was coming here like around 9-ish maybe?
AM?
9 a.m.
Wow.
And then staying until close.
Holy
Maybe
cow.
like 10 to 11, and maybe like an hour or so break just to eat or something.
They let you stay here this long? Without like, do you have to like buy stuff as you?
I buy stuff. Yeah, but Gray's very nice to me.
Yeah, the owner, Sonny, actually made an appearance in Tiger Division episode number 1, as did the Gray Cafe.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I find that one of the harder aspects of drawing comics is like the crosshatch shading and whatnot. I never find that easy. Is there a theory behind it, like, or are you just like imagining where the shadows would be and stuff?
It's I definitely have to know where the shadows are, and then for me it's just like a lot of feeling out where the shadows kind of break off, and then it's cross hatching there. Yeah. So it's always good to imagine like a light source when you're drawing these things, because if you don't imagine it from the beginning, then it's sometimes tough to just randomly place it.
Right.
Because then you might lose some details that you actually wanted to show.
Do you remember the Savage Dragon?
Yes.
That was one of my favorite comics, the Savage Dragon.
He's the guy, right?
Like green guy with the fins.
Yeah. Kind of looks like Abomination, but not really. He has like a white tank top.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Turned out to be a Chicago cop.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah, I followed the Savage Dragon, Spawn, Cyberforce, Wildcats.
So there's an artist named Kenneth Rockerfort. He did Hunter Killer Cyberforce for Image, and yeah, he's very good. He's very unique. His comic style is like his panels used to be very crazy, like his layouts, like they were all angled panels that were crazy shapes. And then that's what I read before going to college. And so when I went to college and I started drawing comics like that, Klaus was like, "What are you doing? You don't even know how to draw comics properly."
I saw this. It's like you have to learn the rules in order to break them. That's what I've heard
exactly.
time and time again.
So right now, if you like look at my comics, I barely do angled panels, very traditional like squares or rectangles, and you know, when I do break the panel borders, it's more for the important stuff, not just because it looks cool.
So like you're doing all this shading, and right now it's kind of like it's like a little bit messy. How do you turn that into something that like makes sense? Like I did all these lines because you're doing it, but how do I make this make sense? You know what I mean?
Well, in my head, I'm probably gonna black this out because I'm imagining the light source coming from here.
Oh, okay. I see.
And so anything that's the light's not reaching, I'm probably gonna just black out. So it's kind of just scribbling in. And then like, if I do want to show some detail but still have it like very dark, I think that's when I'll use like cross hatching to get that like darker gray, blacker tone. But yeah.
Ears are tough. I don't know. That's a good looking ear.
Thank you.
I'm going to cut.
Rolling. All right. One clap for sync.
Nice.
All right. Okay. So you shaded the throat. So I can see why anatomy is so important, because without proper anatomy, your neck's gonna have like too many muscles or stuff like that.
It's like you're drawing people, so you need to be able to draw people in their various postures and stuff.
Yeah. And especially with like superheroes where their muscles are very like exaggerated.
Right.
If you don't know what the muscles are that you're exaggerating, then
well, typically I just look in the mirror and then go off what I see.
You're your own figure drawing like model.
that's honestly why I want to like get back into working out, because it's so useful. Just like being able to pose for myself.
I'm wondering though if like lifting heavy weights and getting sore and stuff will affect your ability to draw. Because like, for example, like I did legs yesterday, and like my legs are shaky right now.
Yeah.
So if I did arms or I did something like that, I'm sure my arms would be feeling shaky and stuff.
So from my experience, weightlifting hasn't been too bad, but like when I went like bouldering once, that killed my forearms and my finger strength. So my hands were like literally shaking when I was
like
trying
you're
to
spazzing
draw.
out. Yeah.
But I don't go bouldering anymore. Like tennis kind of ruins your forearms.
Really.
Bowling, it wasn't too bad, but like if I go for the first time in like a while, then it'll like make my right arm very sore. And so, yeah, certain exercises or activities will definitely affect, but weightlifting in general hasn't been too bad. It's very angry to be American. I feel like I'm like misleading you guys in a way.
Why is that?
Because when I ink, I'm probably gonna change a lot of stuff.
That's part of it, right? Is it like
kind of fixing as you're going, but then, yeah.
But that's the benefit in being able to ink your own stuff, right?
Exactly, yeah.
But it's not going to turn from like Captain America to like Spider-Man when you ink it, right? It's just.
I mean, if you want it,
it's like you
turn
were
that way, then
you were
you
really
can.
You're really pulling us like a 180 there.
Yeah.
It's actually Loki.
I mean, that actually would be a pretty cool idea for like something you could do like on social media. It's like the sketch starts out pencil wise as like something else, and then you go over it with inks, and then you realize like what you were planning all along was to do something that was almost completely different, but then like looks similar in some aspects to it. It's like the grand reveal. I don't know, just coming up with different. I think of like, because I think I've seen things like that before with some artists too that do like some crazy stuff like that.
It's almost like the ones, I don't know if you've seen, like they like paint something and then they flip it around. And
Yes,
like
that's
like
exactly
that.
what I. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think it was like on America's Got Talent or something like that.
They all
It was
extra out.
It was like the
finish.
negative space was what the actual image was all about, but like you see it upside down and you're like your brain doesn't know what to make of it.
Yeah. Nice.
We are your best students ever. Just
Yeah.
patting ourselves on the back here.
You are.
I'm having like high school flashbacks where I'm copying the good kid at school.
You weren't the good kid in school, Roy?
No.
Go on. It should be like over more or something.
Nice.
Is like the ear, like the cowl is part of, like, is the ear come out? Like
Yeah, his ear comes out.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gotta protect everything but the ear.
Yeah.
What is the wing connected to?
It's just like his temple, almost. Like it's just like a stem, and then it comes out.
Functionally, no superhero functionality.
Yeah, I
It's
don't
just-
actually know why that's there.
Yeah, it really does serve no other purpose
Right,
other than
it's just
kind
other
of
than to be there.
yeah, obnoxious. It kind of reminds me now of like the people who have the flags sticking out of the back of the pickup trucks and they're just like flapping like on both sides. That's kind of like the same thing. We could just
Yeah.
like turn these into little flags that are just flapping out from the sides.
An American flag.
Well, you got some shading on the front here, right?
Yeah, so usually like if you break it down, there's a guy named shoot, I forget what the guy's name is. Loomis? No, Andrew Loomis, maybe. But there's some guy that breaks down anatomy, but instead of like what it normally looks like, he'll break it down into different planes. And so I think when they talk about like the forehead, that's like one plane in itself, and then like the side of the head's like another plane.
Oh, I see.
So like if you think about it this way, then there is going to be some kind of like edge lighting, edge shading here maybe.
It's very angry, Captain America.
Yeah. Should
I like
make him
it.
smiling? Okay.
I like it. The tough look. Well, I like this paper because when you erase, it doesn't like tatter up the paper.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Is that paper pretty decent for
This
you?
one? Yeah.
You could be completely honest. Like
It's been great so far.
Okay.
It's a little thin, but we'll see how it holds
how
up.
it'll hold up to some ink.
Yeah. Should I start inking it? Or-
Sure.
Yeah. Should we start inking it too? But I have a question.
Yeah.
Do you see how thick these lines are?
Yeah, that's the
When we ink it, what are we doing with that?
So the way I think the mind kind of works in like that area is you'll see all these different lines, and you're using, like, if you think of each line kind of like this, you're using parts of every line that you drew to make it's like the one path that you want. So I think when I sketch a lot, I kind of just end up seeing
the one
that I want. Yeah.
I see.
I don't know if you also see it that way, but I think it comes after
Absolutely not.
Again, now you're erasing your drawing again.
Yeah.
You just spent all that time, now you're just erasing it.
Oh, I do that because before I ink, because there's a lot of graphite on the page, and I want the ink I want the ink to make more contact with the paper.
I see.
And it just gets really messy, especially when there's so much graphite, and then you're like inking and moving your hand around, the whole thing starts to smudge.
I gotcha.
So yeah, I lighten up the.
You see, like the lines on Roy's are just so dark.
Yeah.
Like all I see is just all of the pressure and the anger he just puts out on that
The
page.
anger.
All the anger.
Just an angry person. Who is your favorite superhero now?
Now, I don't really have like a favorite. If it's favorite to draw, like Venom is very fun to draw.
Yeah.
I also think it's fun because like there's so much black to play around with, like inks and stuff. So it's fun. Psylocke is cool.
Psylocke? I love Psylocke.
I think I had it's probably my other one. I had a Psylocke sketch in there.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to look through it.
I drew a whole bunch of different things, but yeah, it's not looking anything like what you got there.
All right, so we're gonna ink now.
Yeah. Should I try that pen?
Oh yeah,
Absolutely.
let's do. Yeah, adding another challenge. So, did you ink it up for him or?
I have not yet.
Okay.
We could do like a little demonstration.
Right.
Get you, this is kind of like, this is for the podcast of like popping the cherry of the fountain pen user here.
This is a pretty nice first fountain pen, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. I mean, some people prefer keeping the sticker on. It's kind of like a good luck thing, I guess, or whatever. So we're just gonna like keep it on. So then that's just a sticker that says SEF is soft extra fine. So that's what the referring to when it comes to this falcon nib. So as you'll come to know when you play around with this converter, it's not the greatest converter. This is basically what'll suck up the ink.
Okay. So it's like a crack.
What's the converter?
So this is this piece right here.
Okay.
I'll take it out. So this is the Con 40 converter, and it has little ball agitators in there. You see like the little metal balls that are in there, so that it keeps the ink towards the front part of the converter as you're writing with it. And it has this little piston on there that advances then the piston head that's inside, of which creates the syringe suction effect for when you have it attached here. So you have it attached nice and tight here. You would bring the converter all the way down so that it's at the forward end of the nib. Then you have your bottle of ink. This bottle of ink, I was just looking at the instructions before, it actually has it has an inner reservoir inside. So what you would then be able to do is you don't have to worry about kind of like angling it at a certain way. There's an inner reservoir that if you turn it upside down and then shake it, it'll fill that inner reservoir.
Oh wow.
So that you don't have to worry about like, see, it's like right there on the inside.
Okay.
It's like
it's a little askew, but
Is it like a loose? Oh, okay.
yeah, it's a loose item so that you can actually pluck it out if you wanted to, but you would use it to be able to, and it's got like the little cutouts on the side, so that's where the ink flows in from. So then you would take the fountain pen nib, you dip it in so that it gets submerged completely there. And you see I got a little bit of ink the first go at it. But really what the complaint that most people have about this converter is that it's not very good in terms of like getting filled up all the way.
Okay.
So that is fully inked. Well, not fully inked, but it's got enough ink in it just to be able to do what we need to do with it. This you could probably write with for what, like a about like a week or so, depending
Yeah.
on or draw. Or you could probably do like a whole entire page of inks with it, or several, I would say, because it lasts a while.
Yeah.
Do we have
A
any?
napkin?
I'm gonna go get a napkin. You told me not to.
Well, I know, but like I was just more or less for the filling part, not for the. I wasn't thinking about the wiping of the nib.
Getting napkins because Tom needs napkins. Do you guys have napkins?
Yeah. So then when you need to, let's say you need to refill it again or something, you would then make sure the cap's on really nice and tight. You shake it upside down like that, and then this
Here
would
we go.
then get
We got
filled up.
napkins. Somebody said that they're not an amateur, so they don't use napkins, so I didn't get them earlier.
Thank you. So then you would just wipe down the
Handle.
yeah, because like you could potentially get some ink that's on the part here, but you don't mind, being that you're used to playing around with ink, you don't mind some ink getting on your
Oh,
fingers.
yeah, no,
but you
no.
just want to make sure that you don't have like an excessive amount of it that then would transfer to drawing somehow. You know?
Yeah.
So that's what we just cleaned it up a little bit, and it is now good to go. We'll put the barrel screws back on. And then,
Oh, thank you.
yep. And watch like the first stroke that you do with it, just like
Okay.
Maybe you want to just dab somewhere else, just real quick. Just
Oh, that's okay. I think it's fine.
Okay, so we're
I'll do it on the dark part. Oh wow. Okay. I feel like there's a lot of space to fill up. Okay.
Okay.
well, yeah, it's definitely not something that you would fill with a large amount of space.
Yeah.
It'd probably be something that you would use more to create the accent lines and like the more of the line work aspect of
Yeah.
it, where you could do some variability in terms of like putting a little bit of pressure on the nib and creating that line variation.
Yeah.
So it'd be it's something similar to what then you would use with the
PN.
PN, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so we're gonna start inking. How long can this pen be uncapped before it dries out?
It dries out maybe pretty quick, but if you just draw with it again, like
Okay.
it's fine.
Alrighty.
Now,
So
in
where do
terms,
you start?
yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Like in terms of like where do you usually would start with like just going something?
I usually start with the eyes, or like
start with the eyes.
eyes, or just like the general outline, kind of like of the face.
Okay.
But usually the eyes are usually where I start.
And is that because they're probably like the most difficult to get down right, and then if that gets screwed up, it's like pretty much everything's done after.
Yeah, a lot of it is that. Yeah, there's times where I'll like pencil for like 4 hours, and then
Oh no.
I'll start inking the eyes. I'm like, I messed up the eyes, and I'll just like restart.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
So you're using the PN Micron?
I'm using the PN Micron.
I'm using that right now
Yeah.
too.
Hey Tom.
Yeah.
Later on at some point, let's figure out how to refill these PN Microns.
Oh, like a hack?
Yeah.
I don't know if it's as easy as you think it might be, because I there's probably a tutorial on it somewhere if you're more inclined.
There, so usually people who compare microns or who use the microns will end up using the Copic fine liners.
I've heard
because those
that's
are refillable, and so people can use like whichever ink they want to use. Because I use I don't know if I'm like allowed to say which kind. I feel like it's like cross promotion, but I use an ink that is waterproof and Copic marker proof.
Okay.
So 'cause I think the Copic markers are like more alcohol based,
Mm-hmm.
so they end up smudging a lot of the other inks that I've used before. But there's one that I found through someone else that recommended it, and then I can ink first and then do Copics over or watercolor over, and it won't smudge at all. But like, yeah.
That's pretty important in terms of, you know, when you're doing an inked piece, like the smudge aspect
Yeah.
is like crucial, because then all of a sudden clean crisp lines that you put down are just obliterated.
Yeah.
They're just too fuzzy.
Exactly.
or just like if I do have to use Copics and then like let's say the ink smudges, then I would have to color it first, then ink after. But then that messes with like my whole process, and it just looks completely different. It's so uncomfortable just inking over something like that. So
for color, I was imagining that a lot of color artists these days use digital to do that. But like, when you color, do you still use like the Copic markers and stuff?
So
or use...
if it's a colored commission where they're paying for the physical piece, then I would have to use Copics or whatnot. But if it's like published, then I'll just digital. Because it's much cleaner for printing and publishing and stuff like that. So.
It's like my hand is having a seizure. I can't keep a straight, steady. That's also part of the skill, I'm assuming, just being able to be steady-handed, right?
Yeah, a trick is to draw the lines quicker.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because if you take your time to draw a straight line, it'll be shakier.
Oh,
so if you can, if you can draw it quicker, usually it helps. There's also a trick where if it's a like a longer straight line, a lot of people draw from their wrist, and they'll try to draw like a straight line this way. But if you draw from pivoting from your elbow, that line will look straighter.
Oh, okay.
Or be straighter.
How do you feel about the pen?
The pen? I might have to switch out just to get certain lines and then go back in with this pen for like details.
But I see what you mean when you're saying, when you told me back a couple of weeks ago that when you put the pen down, the ink down, right?
Yeah.
It almost gets instantly absorbed versus a fountain pen ink.
Yeah.
Because the fountain pen ink sits on top of the paper
Yeah.
and then
You can
grows
kinda
into
just
the paper.
touch it
Right.
almost
This one
immediately.
is very
User friendly.
So the lovely young lady who made these for us, these prints, her name is Kari Bullet Journal. She uses this also.
Oh, the micro?
Yeah.
Oh,
So
okay.
she sent me a picture of Wonder Woman that she drew.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, she drew a Wonder Woman, and I asked her to draw me a Wonder Woman because she draws Wonder Woman a lot. And so she sent me, as a surprise, I'm going to show it to you, a Captain America in the Wonder Woman sketch.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so she uses, on the back, you can't see it, but on the back she wrote what she used in terms of pencils and inks, and she used the microns.
Yeah. That's awesome.
So that sketching that you did on the brow, like the
This one?
yeah.
Yeah.
Like how do you do that? Like how do you?
Ooh, that's tough.
That's just kind of like
more
a feel thing.
Yeah. And it's gonna change. It's not like the final lines for that at all. So.
Like the cross hashing is very difficult, I find. Right.
Yeah. There's another Korean artist named Frank Cho. That's very. He cross hatches like a crazy amount.
I feel like cross hashing it really came about a lot. Like the science of it, I guess, really changed with Jim Lee and Mark Silvestri. Right. Everything looked metallic. Like.
Oh yeah. There's this. I'm so bad with names. There's this one artist. He's like drew a very famous picture of like Frankenstein, I think, or like Dr. Jekyll and Hyde or something. Or it was like I think it was like Dr. Frankenstein, I think. And I think the whole piece is basically cross hatching. But he's like one of the I think bigger inspirations in like comic art. A little older than the Jim Lee and like that kind of era, but yeah. I wish I knew all these names. I've also started using this Tombow. It's more flexible, like felt nib, but it helps with like getting much thicker lines. So when I'm doing these general outlines, it's just I can kind of get it in one
It's
go.
like a brush almost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Instead of having to like redraw the same line. I like the little metal ball like floating around.
You can kind of like hear them as
It's
you're
cool.
At what point do you say, "Oh, I messed that up, and I'm just going to discard the whole thing"?
When I feel like whiteout can't fix it. Or whiteout as in this, like, I use this Uni Posca paint pen. And so this is probably, from my experience, one of the more opaque whites. So if I feel like that can't fix it, then it's just...
It is far beyond repair.
Yeah. There are times where when I'm working on like a comic page, I'll like mess up, and then I'll have to cut out that panel and then put a new piece of paper in.
Really? You can actually do that? Like actually just take a piece of paper and just like put it right on top of it?
There's a trick to kind of getting the exact shape. You kind of have to two piece, like that comic paper and then another piece of paper underneath. You cut through the same, like right on top of each other, so you get the same exact size. And then you get that new piece and just kind of tape it on there.
But then so you tape it from the back so that it would look, so you're basically cutting into the original piece of the artwork.
Yeah.
And then you have to tape it from the back so that, wow.
But if you cut the two pieces of paper at the same time, they're exactly the same shape, so you can barely see. And if it's the whole border of the panel, then it's like less visible.
I see.
Yeah. But then in the end, like you're scanning it in and you're sending them to scan, so nobody will tell.
They could like Photoshop it out.
Yeah, exactly.
I see. Okay. Oh, that's so cool.
I also tend to like when like my pens are kind of running out of ink, so then you kind of get like a drier
Line.
Yeah, so it's not as like dark. You can get like a nice gray tone line.
So when you come to the cafe and you're
Yeah.
like drawing and stuff, how often do people like me, nosy people, come up and start bothering you and stuff?
It's not like too often, but you know, there are people who will just be like quickly, oh, like that's just a nice drawing you got. Thank you again. Yeah.
And there's people like me who will pester you until you come onto their podcast.
Yeah, exactly.
You should have seen how excited I was that day after I spoke to you. I'm like, Tom, guess what?
I appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, no, it's our pleasure.
Yeah. There's a lot of artists that draw here too, so it's actually kind of really cool seeing like other people who are drawing. I'm always like wanting to talk to them and you know, but some people I think aren't as open to just chatting, so
Now, when you're doing the commissions at the conventions,
yeah.
do you give yourself a time limit of like how long do you work on a piece?
No, I try not to like rush them because I feel bad if I kind of just, you know, like take their money and then rush a piece.
I would feel like a lot of pressure being that, especially since you have to give it to them the same day, like, or can you like mail it to them later?
Usually it's like for the during the weekend. I'll try to finish it so I don't have to like, take any extra work home.
Right.
But yeah, I end up like having to stay up some nights just trying to finish, and then it's tough sometimes because like I'll talk to people at the show hours and then I don't get like as much drawing done, so I'll have to like stay up in the hotel or something. But yeah, I tend not to like put a time limit on it really.
Because you just want to like make sure you do the work justice. And
Yeah,
that it's
and like
completely
make people
fulfilling.
happy. Yeah,
Right.
they're spending good amount of money on certain pieces, and I wouldn't want them to like be disappointed. And then I charge the same for like commissions at home and at commission. I mean, and at cons.
Mm-hmm.
And some people they charge a little less because they know like at cons they want to like get it done quicker.
Okay.
But I try to do the same kind of quality work.
Right.
So yeah, I've had some people ask me like, "Oh, can you just do it at home?" And I'm just like, I'd rather just do it here because at home I'm like busy working on like projects.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't have really any other time to do them except at the cons. Yeah, I try to reassure them that it'll be like the best that I can do.
How do you get better at shading and cross hatching? You're just practicing? Just
Practice, yeah, you kind of feel it out and then kind of maybe like seeing other people's work as well, seeing how they do it, and then it's like kind of learning from other art. I think the line with this ink you can erase, but I'm kind of scared to erase over the heavy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's like less of a concern to erase over that part anyway, because it's like the lines are covered up in the first place.
Yeah.
But I can see a pool of ink right
see
there.
that too,
That's not dried.
Not dry yet.
Jesus. Oh, should I have turned off the audio since you turned off the
You're
camera?
good.
Yeah.
I figure the audio is can be priority because once that collapses down, it's still part of it.
I like the stitching on the A.
Yeah, with the home, the homemade suit.
I was happy.
Whereas, like, I must make it look exactly like Creees.
Every line.
Yeah, seriously.
Nice.
Every line to the exact, yes.
God, the neck part is hard.
Yeah, I honestly just scribbled a lot of the things because it kind of just fades out.
All right, so let's hold up our drawings for everybody watching.
Is that camera? Yeah. Show and tell. Oh wait, Chris. We have to have Chris's here too.
Sure.
Okay. All right, I'm actually going to take some time and edit this because I want to use all the B-roll. So we might have to do this one next Saturday, not this coming Saturday, because there's a lot of content here. You know what I mean? So can you sign that? Like,
Yeah,
how do you normally?
of course.
That's awesome. I just realized I don't have like a comic signature,
I don't have a regular signature.
but that's what shows up on the comics.
Yeah.
Wow. All right. Okay, so that was our interview with the illustrious Creees Lee,
The illustrious illustrator.
the illustrious illustrator.
Yes.
Yeah, very nice. Listen, Creees, thank you very much for
Thank you.
being here. We really appreciate it. We appreciated the tutorial on how to draw a bust of Captain America. And not just that, taking the time out, knowing as busy as you are, many pages you got to draw. I really appreciate you coming down here. Tom really appreciates it, and our viewers really appreciate it. So thank you. Keep your eyes out. Can you just tell everybody how they can connect with you on social
Okay.
media and whatnot?
I have Instagram, Twitter, an old YouTube channel, Twitch that I haven't streamed on in a while, but hopefully it will get back on. But it's all Creeseart, Creeesart. and yeah.
Can you also talk about the titles that you're working on now, or what where they can find your work?
I have a book. I did one issue of the Moon Knight annual issue, and it has Moon Knight versus Tegoki. That's coming out August 29th, I believe, so it could be soon, or just at the end of this month. I haven't started advertising this, but I made a sweatshirt.
Nice.
That will be starting to sell soon.
Just make sure you don't let Roy design the shirt, because apparently it won't sell. So
I failed and crashed and burned on shirts before.
Oh no.
Yeah.
But I mostly post on my Instagram, so I'm probably gonna be selling it through that.
Nice.
And if anybody has any like art questions, I'm always happy to answer if I can, whenever I have time. Just like send me in a message on Instagram. Yeah, I don't really check Facebook too much, so Instagram is my main one.
Okay, cool. And make sure you check out Tiger Division. It's a miniseries available at Marvel Comics. You can purchase them on any comic book app, or you can go into your local comic book store and request it. Tiger Division is a great title.
Oh, there's a trade paperback coming out in September, I believe. So it's going to have 1 through 5 all in one book.
And those can be found Amazon. I saw it on Amazon listed for pre-order. Yeah, I think it's a great title. I think the art is fantastic. And once again, Creees Lee, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for all the goodies.
Yeah.
I really appreciate it.
And to everybody listening and watching, thanks again for joining us. This was episode number 174 of the PenBoyRoy Pentertainment Podcast. Love you guys. Be well, be safe.
Stay inky.